I'm Sister Annabelle, as always. So as I promised, we are continuing our Psycho franchise review with 1983's Psycho 2. Now, Psycho 2, this is a sequel that I actually truly enjoy. I know some people are kind of like, with the Psycho sequels, are like, I truly enjoy the second Psycho. I really do. Oh my god, so many good things. I feel like it carries the story along really well. It kind of, gives us some refreshing new concepts with the series and everything, with the franchise. I shouldn't say with the franchise, because this was only the second one. But definitely gives a little bit more of a backstory to Norman. We're definitely watching more of Norman, getting to know him a little bit more and everything. But yeah. So this was released back in 1983, I believe. Yes, 1983. So technically it's supposed to be 22 years later, but obviously it's technically 23 years later after this came out from the first one. But whatever. So, like I said, this really kind of like focuses more on Norman and everything. Movie opens up with us in a courtroom. There's Norman there and everything. There was Janet Leigh's sister from the first one. What's her name? I have it written down. Vera Miles. That's who it was. Sorry, total brain fart. She's there and everything at the hearing and everything. The judge is like, you know what? Your sanity's cleared, like, you're good, you're cured now, you can go back out into the real world and try and, like, live a normal life and everything. Of course, Lila, who's played by Vera Miles, sister to the character in the first one and everything, is like, oh no, like, you can't, I have all these signatures, and saying, like, you should, keep him locked up, he's dangerous, he's a threat to, others and everything, and the judge is like, no, dude, like, no, he's fine, like, he's okay now, he's at help, he's been here for 22 years, he served his time, like, okay, like, he can go, like, let him be, so, he's released, he goes back to his old house and everything, and the motel and everything. The house has not been lived in since Norman was taken away 23 years ago, but the hotel has continued to run. The state actually had brought someone in to run the motel, this guy Toomey, who basically is just turning it into kind of like an adult hotel, kind of like an hourly rate, where people just kind of come check in, have a party, or have sex, do drugs. It just pretty much is a nasty, disgusting hotel, basically. Norman's like, no, you gotta leave. Like, this is not how I want my hotel to be run and everything. My motel to be run. Like, I'm firing you. Like, I'm here now. Like, bye. So, he gets rid of him and everything, so he can kind of now take over the hotel. At the same time, though, he's actually had gotten himself a little job where the state had him set up with a little, like, restaurant job where he's, like, a shorter cook or a cook assistant and stuff, taking orders and everything. And he's really kind of, like, showing that it does seem to be that, like, he is genuinely kind of cured. We can see that he's having some, like, triggers, like, when he sees knives or something, or even, like, the house is playing some tricks on him. But, I feel like that's kind of, like, you would expect that to happen with someone who just got out of a mental institution for committing these horrific acts, like, years before. But you can genuinely see, like, in this one, you definitely, I feel like, even, like, in the first one, you feel some sort of sympathy towards Norman Bates. You feel something for him as a human being. Like, there's just something about him, But, in this one, I feel like they really do kind of, show that even more of, like, okay, you feel a lot more sympathy towards Norman. Like, yeah, he did do all this stuff, like, this horrific, unforgivable stuff years before. But, you know what? Maybe he really, truly has changed. He's definitely trying to put his best foot forward in carrying on a normal life. Well, not everyone really sees that. We come to kind of find out later on in the movie. But while he's at the restaurant, he meets Mary, which is played by Meg Tilly. And fun little fact, if she looks very familiar, she is actually the sister to Jennifer Tilly. Yes, that Jennifer Tilly from Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Cult of Chucky, been in a ton of stuff. Beautiful actress. Both of them are beautiful. But yeah, so she's, she meets Norman and everything, and from what we know, she's having issues with her boyfriend, and, like, they're no longer together. She has, like, nowhere to go. So Norman's like, well, why don't you just come stay at the hotel at least, or if you want to stay in the house, whichever, like, you shouldn't be out, by yourself, like, this is shitty, like, just, at least temporary, like, I'm not going to charge you for it, just so you can kind of, like, get your feet back on the ground. So she's kind of like, okay, like, a little hesitant, because, she's obviously has heard about the things that he has done and everything, knows that he's just out of jail and out of the mental institution and everything. A little hesitant, but she's like, you know what? I'll give this guy a chance, and we're kind of rooting for her too, of like, hey, maybe a little love connection. Let's get Norman some ass. I'm just saying. But as the movie goes on, like, little things start to happen. For example, like, there's two kids that break into Norman's cellar, and we already know that, like, this is kind of like one of those reoccurrences that happens quite often, where people are like, oh, the old Norman Bates house, it's empty. Let's go ahead and, like, break in and, like, canoodle a little bit. So kids are in there, whatever, and someone is down there, presumably Norman, dressed up as his mother, is down there, finds the kids, kills the boy, the young man. The girl gets away and, like, gets in touch with, like, the cops or whatever, runs into the cops. Meanwhile, as that scene ends, before we realize that the girl got to the cops, it goes back up to one of the rooms upstairs where Norman's locked in. Mary comes in, she opens the door, she's like, Norman, what are you doing up here? He's like, oh, the door was locked, I think Mother locked it and stuff, and this and that. And she's like, no, it was unlocked, like, it was open, I just turned the door handle. So you're kind of like, this is where you're kind of starting to realize, like, okay, something's going on, like, something's off. Is maybe Mary doing this? But she's, pretty believable, where you're like, no, she seems to genuinely be, like, for Norman. Like, if she was doing this, why would she cover for Norman? But you definitely know, you feel like, okay, something's going on. Someone else is trying to kind of set him up and everything. It's just kind of like seeing how, the whole movie is kind of seeing how, like, people are trying to, like, they're, like, the town's very divided, where some of the town is like, you know what, that was so long ago what he did, maybe he has changed, let's give him a chance. And then there's other people, such as, like, Toomey and Lila, the sister to Janet Leigh's character from the first one, who are like, oh, he's not cured, he's an animal, he will never ever be cured, like, he will always be a threat and stuff. So you kind of start to think, like, who's setting him up, or is he really maybe doing this still? Like, it's one of those things, but we do find out that he is actually being set up by someone else. So, and that is actually Lila and her daughter Mary. We do find that they're really kind of trying to, like, set things up. They killed Toomey and everything, put his cart in the lake, just like Janet Leigh's in the first one, to kind of make it seem like, oh yeah, he's doing it. And it's like, no, he, like, had nothing to do with it. But still, even with, like, Mary's character, like, we're still kind of rooting for, like, there's still that hope of, like, no, is she really doing this? Is she really, like, no, because she's sticking up for him. Like, for example, like, when the cops show up and talk to him about the one kid that was killed and everything, she still is like, well, no, I was with him, we were, like, at the park or something, or we're doing this, like, she keeps coming up with alibis for him. So you're kind of like, is she really doing this? So, and even, like, Toomey, when his car is found in the lake, she shows up with him, and, the sheriff is kind of like, well, okay, well, Norman, I don't know if you really did this. It seems a little weird that all this stuff is happening. You don't really seem to be, like, you have all these alibis, like, you know, you're at work or something or whatever, or, you know, like, you know, I believe you. And then, you know, he tells Norman, okay, well, you know, Norman, go on, you know, get out of here, go, you know, go to work or whatever, do whatever you need to do. And, but he asks Mary to stay behind, and, you know, he's kind of like, you know, I kind of suspect that you and your mom could be up to something. Like, this is a little fishy, like, you know, everyone's kind of letting him just kind of do his own thing or whatever, but it seems like you guys are always kind of got your little noses in things, like, so little things like that, that it's, you know, that they're leading on to and everything. Um, but yeah, but yeah. And then we find out in this movie that Norma, his mother, is really not his biological mother. No. His mother actually is another woman who works at the diner with Norma. It, I think, has like had some hand in being like, here, you know what, he's getting out. Why don't you let him come, you know, kind of get reacquainted with everything. Let people see that, you know, he's an alright guy. Let him work here. You know, I got a space in, you know, in the kitchen and stuff. That lady is actually Norman's biological mother, sister to Norma. We come to find out. We find out that, you know, she kind of gave up Norman because, you know, she says herself, like, oh, I was so young and everything, and I was out of wedlock, and it's just like, you know, what could I have done? Like, you know, so many people would have been like ostracizing me. I wasn't, you know, capable of raising you. I wasn't ready, but I didn't necessarily want to give you up, so I gave you to my older sister Norma, who took you in as her own. So, you know, we kind of find that out and everything, but she doesn't really come out on top at the end. I'm just saying. But yeah, no, it's a you know, really solid second installment to a movie, especially one that came out like 2 decades plus after the first one, which is very hard to do. I feel like it's usually when that happens, a lot of times it's right off the bat, a movie is a dud. I mean, I don't even think that this movie did that well when it first came out and stuff. But it's definitely, you know, I feel like it has kind of grown a little bit of cult status. You know, whether you do really enjoy the Psycho sequels, or you feel like, you know, just the one and only Psycho was sufficient enough. I see both ways, but, you know, for a sequel, it's definitely very well done. And something that I like about this, and even from what I remember with the other two sequels, you know, I give the franchise a lot of credit. Actually, I should say I give the TV show Bates Motel a lot of credit, because they did definitely draw quite a bit from the entire franchise for that series. Like, for example, from this one, from Psycho 2, like, you know, like the blackouts. Norman kind of admits that he sometimes have blackouts and stuff, and that's why he doesn't remember stuff, like when he was like kind of getting portraying his mother and everything. Like, he wouldn't remember that. He would just kind of black out and like killing people, and he just would not have any memory of this. So I mean, little things like that for the TV show. And yes, maybe one day I will do like a series review on Bates Motel. But you know, I do give the show a lot of credit for kind of staying pretty true to a lot of what was implanted in the Psycho movie franchise, so give a lot of credit for that. But let me know, what do you guys think of Psycho 2? Do you guys like it? Do you guys enjoy it? Do you think it really does kind of bring some new stuff to the table for the Psycho series? Or do you think it's just kind of like, it was a movie? You know, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Till next time, as always, stay creepy, classy, and a little bit sassy.